Hi, welcome to the Dairy Hour podcast, where rural charm meets personal growth. Join us as we milk every moment for wisdom, self-improvement, and mental wellness. I'm your host, Val Lavigne, a rural dairy farming mom with a passion for filling hearts while never forgetting to fill my own cup. Get ready for insightful conversations, empowering tips, and a splash of fun and laughs, of course. Let's cultivate growth, nourish our minds, and embrace the journey together. This is the Dairy Hour podcast, where every episode is a breath of fresh air and the inspiration you need to be your best self. As a busy mom and dairy farmer, I'm always looking for ways to support my family's health as well as my own, and I absolutely love Wonder Cow Colostrum. It's packed with essential nutrients, great for supporting gut health, boosts immunity, and promotes overall wellness. Whether it's for me, my kids, or anyone looking to stay strong and healthy, Wonder Cow is my go-to daily supplement. I have been taking it for a year now, and it is irreplaceable in my daily routine. If you want to experience the amazing benefits of colostrum too, you can use my special code, DairyGalVal, at checkout for a discount. Give Wonder Cow a try, and you will definitely feel the difference. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Dairy Hour podcast. I am your host, Val Lavigne, and I am joined today by Victoria Robinson. And she's one of those really awesome people that I've never actually met in person, but we've been quote unquote friends on Instagram for a few years now. And just one of those people that I'm instantly yes, we're friends. Like, this is awesome. And I feel like I know her and we've never even met. So here we are. Victoria, welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I totally second that just the years on social media, it just feels like this is going to be way too easy.
And you just have those people that you click with, and I love it. So yeah. Here we are. I love people that you click with. You're people. So if you want to get started and tell us just a little bit about what you do.
Sure. Like you said, my name is Victoria. I'm a first-generation farmer based in Maryland, and I have accidentally created my dream job of, if I could put a title to it, probably a Highland cow event and experience host, which sounds crazy, but I am in the agritourism space with my small farm, and we specifically focus on Highland cattle and education.
I love it. And I have to start off with this story, because to understand where I'm at, you have to hear this story. When I was a kid, we had a Highland steer, and his name was Harry. If one can only imagine, that's what, every 10-year-old girl names this Highland steer that dad brings home.
Yep.
Hence Harry. Well, I really wanted Harry to be super awesome and friendly, and I just wanted to love him and put a halter on him and take him for walks and do the things. Harry did not agree. Harry was very ornery and not a very nice steer. And Harry at one point did go after me. And so Harry and I no longer were friends. And then Harry ended up in the freezer. He did taste quite delicious, and revenge was wonderful. But now that I live vicariously through you and your adorable little Highlands, do I give them a second chance? What do I do? Because they're so cute.
They really are.
It's childhood trauma here we've got going on the podcast today.
Right.
And I have to do a shout out to your little baby that you just had born a few days ago.
Just a couple days ago.
Oh my gosh. Literally the cutest thing. And the hair and the hairdo is amazing. One can only dream of having hair that cool.
For real. Yeah. They have the best hairstyles and no work to come with it. So it's life goals.
They just come out instantly adorable.
They honestly do.
And does he have a name yet?
His name is Bruno. His mom's name is Bert. So we we keep with the same first letter. And
yep.
At least for now. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we try to do that with our goats too. And my kids, because they're really getting into the goats, are really coming into their own on their names. And thankfully, we're starting to get more normal names at least on the girls. And Owen still comes up with some real doozies where I'm you should rethink that name.
Yeah.
So the joys of naming things with children around, but that's besides the point. So tell us a little bit more about your business and, what kind of things you do on a day-to-day basis.
Sure. Yeah. So, I guess how we got started in it is a good place to start. I've been farming alongside my boyfriend for almost 3 years now, and him and his family, they raise hay, and they started out with Angus cattle. So when I came into the picture, I was like, let me just get 2 Highlands. It'll be so fun. Like, just 2, I promise. And that snowballed into me convincing him to change over the whole herd. So we no longer have Angus, and now it's just a full Highland breeding herd. And I say a full herd, we have about a dozen. We're on a small scale. So note it, like, moving forward, knowing all of this, like, all the things I'm about to tell you, I'm doing with about 12 cows. So we're very much on a small scale. And I very, like, want to be totally transparent about that, like, what I'm about to share with you is possible without having, you know, the hundreds and thousands of head that you see other people doing. So we're very unique and niche in that aspect, but we still do hay. We also raise pumpkins. So the pumpkins kind of came before all this agritourism stuff. We sell via a self-serve stand. So at that time, I was like, I really don't want people on the farm. My boyfriend and I both worked off the farm, so we didn't really want people showing up to buy pumpkins when we weren't there, all that stuff. So we did self-serve pumpkins, and we still do to this day. And naturally, when you have something for sale from the farm, you share it on social media. So we started with the Facebook and the Instagram and all of that stuff. And then as we progressed, like once pumpkin season was done, we were like, okay, well, now what do we share? So I was like, the cows. So we started into that, just sharing more of like the day-to-day farm life. And we got so many messages from people wanting to visit the cows. And this was something that I resisted for the longest time because, you know, opening your farm to the public is just a whole different level, a whole different process, a whole different liability. So I sat on it for like a year. And during that same year, I also had a job that I should have loved. It was in the ag tourism space. It was working with show cows. It was with great people, like nothing but great things to say. But I also had this feeling deep down inside that like it still wasn't it. So this little seed in the back of my head was like, maybe this cow thing could be something, but I just never took the leap to do it. So fast forward. Last November of 24, I actually lost my job as we headed into the off season and kind of caught me off guard. And, you know, aside from like the hit to my pride, once I like figured out that like it was actually the biggest blessing because it put me in a place of like, now you have to figure it out. Because I really didn't want to just go and get another job that like was not on my heart whatsoever. So I was like, all right, let's try this cow thing. Gave myself like a couple months. I was like, all right, if I don't figure it out by like February, then we'll go back on the job search. So built the website, did like all the things in the back end, got all the liability figured out, started halter training the cows and like really took it seriously. And it kind of blew up towards the end of January. And now we're booking out currently. We're in March now. And we're booking out, like we're booked solid through April. So we open our calendar like 60 days in advance. So yeah, it's been a wild journey in a very unpredicted way, but present day life is everything that like I've wanted and just never really visualized that like these pieces would be it.
That is so awesome. And it has been really neat to watch your journey because I remember, you know, watching your Instagram stories when you first brought home those first 2 Highlanders. Right. Yep. And then I remember last year when baby Wayne was born. He's not a baby anymore.
Oh my gosh, I know.
We can thank Wayne though. I think he probably is like the star to this.
The best. He just has the perfect personality to like, I always call it like peopling. He does such a good job. And like for our first calf, we couldn't have asked for anything better. So we got very lucky.
It's his little health scares that he had in the beginning and getting it started. But
yeah.
And he ended up being a bottle baby, correct? Or did he end up?
Didn't. No. Yeah. Okay. So we did have to assist with his labor, but luckily he had the instinct to nurse. So it took some time for him to like figure out his legs. So knock on wood, the first couple weeks were a little rough, but he figured it out. And now he's just a super chill dude.
He is quite the star of the show. Alongside you, of course.
Okay.
So I just love the fact that I always say, like, things happen for a reason. And, you know, while it was a blow to your pride to, like, lose your job going into the off season, I mean, literally the best case scenario right there, because it puts you in the position where you were like, all right, sink or swim, let's do this. And that's so amazing to see things come to fruition. And you're such a genuinely nice, awesome person. So it couldn't have happened to anyone better. And I love that for you. And like I said, I get so excited watching your stories and seeing all of the really cool things that you're doing. And I also saw your story the other day about making the small straw bales. And it's just one of those things I'm like, oh my gosh, they're literally undoing big straw bales and making them into small ones.
Yes. Yeah. It really is a wild concept. Like the way that we're farming and the things that we're doing, we're the weird farmers, right? Like you said, taking big straw bales and making a miniature, like who does that? Why do we do that? So like, yes, we're doing things in a non-traditional way. It's not traditional agriculture, I guess, per se, but it's diversifying in a way that allows me to be full-time on the farm now and like is that financial stability and confidence as well. So like, yes, it's weird. Yes, it's different, but it works for us. And that's, I think, the most important thing for anyone listening who's farming as well. Like, you don't have to do what I'm doing. You don't have to do what your neighbor's doing. You just have to do whatever's going to pay your bills.
Yes. And whatever you love to do when you get up in the morning, because that's another thing. I mean, do what you love and you quote unquote never work a day in your life. And I just love how you had that feeling like you're like, man, this job should be, really like what drives my passion. But you knew deep down that it was not where you were meant to be. And that's really, really neat that you were able to almost see that and, give this whole extra, what started as probably like maybe a side job. It really, you gave it a chance and it proved you wrong, which is amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of like adding on to what you said, like I didn't really figure it out and actually make it happen and make it work until there was no other option. People always tell you like, you have to go all in and you have to give it your all. But until you're at a point where you're like fed up enough or you really like don't have another option, like that's when you like figure it out. And it's so hard to like sit here and say that because I can't be the one to tell you like this is going to be your breaking moment or whatever. But it's true. Like when you really sit down and are so committed to something, you figure it out. It might not be the idea you had yesterday or the idea you'll have tomorrow, but like it works out in some way.
Yes. And I love it. It is true. Like until you're, what is it? Nose is to the fire. Like you need to toes to the fire. I don't even know what the saying is. I'm terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible with sayings. My husband will he still remembers me saying a saying wrong right when we started dating. And I'm like, I just can't live this down. So I need to just not try to do the sayings, but I do it. So, oh well. So I want to jump back to Victoria growing up. Where did you grow up? What was your life like as a child?
Yeah, so I did not grow up on a farm whatsoever. My biggest childhood memories was, we went to the beach every summer, like easy summer vacations. We rode scooters in our driveway. We had a paved driveway that was in like the outskirts of a development. We jumped on the trampoline. So very much like, I can't say suburban, but I was not connected to agriculture as a kid. So eventually in middle school, I think it was, I picked up riding horses just as a hobby and fell in love with it. So I was the horse girl through middle school and even through high school, got into 4-H and FFA and got really competitive with like the judging side of things. And even at that point, like didn't really consider agriculture as a career because I had no experience to it. Like my friends didn't farm, just outside of that hobby equine industry, had no idea what really was out there. So after high school, I was in state office for a year and that really kind of opened my eyes to, oh my gosh, there's so much more to ag than just horses. I was like so in my little bubble. So then I ended up meeting and marrying a farmer. And together we ran an on-farm market. Now my ex-husband, he started that business. It was like a 2-car garage that pretty much turned into a local grocery store on the farm. So together we scaled it from that little teeny tiny storefront that saw a couple customers over a weekend into a full-blown agritourism operation. So the store on the farm was the focus. We had a greenhouse with a hydroponic production. We did farm tours because we raised pigs, cows, chickens, all the things to supply the meat with the store, in addition to your field crops of like pick your own flowers, pick your own pumpkins, the whole 9 yards. So that business really scaled into a big, huge thing. And of course, when I decided to get divorced, I left that operation. So I still give a lot of credit to that season of life for being really where I found my passion for like ag business and working for myself and being in ag as a career. Because before that, I had no clue what I was doing, no clue what I wanted to do. So it was a huge season of life for me that really let me figure out like who I am as a business owner, who I am as, a leader, things like that. And then stepping away from that business, there was like a 3-year period-ish of where I had, I was back at square one. I didn't have a family farm to go home to. So it was really like, oh crap, like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to start up again? How am I going to afford? Like, I really thought that farming was totally out of the picture for me because it's so intimidating when you're trying to start up and buy land and all of that stuff. So that's where like the small scale and having a small herd, I hold that so close to my heart because there was a season of life that like I knew that's what I wanted and it was so out of reach. So to have that now, so grateful for even the small amount of cows that we have now is just something I won't take for granted.
Yeah. So I want to kind of jump back. So when you got into this whole ag tourism thing, what were your parents thinking?
Oh, so my dad, let me start with my mom. Fully supportive, loves it. She would work alongside me on the farm. Like I roped her into the things too. My dad was very leery. He was a firefighter and he had, one stable job his whole life, set hours, benefits, retirement, like very much stability. So for me to be like, I'm going to go, run this business and we don't have a paycheck and we don't have benefits and all that, everything's paid out of pocket. He was very leery of it, especially in the beginning stages, because I was with that previous business for about 8 to 10 years. So you see a lot of growth over that time. So really like the pivotal moment for my dad was through COVID because the business exploded and we were working so hard, but we had lines for hours of people waiting to shop with us. And I think it finally clicked with my dad of like, this is a legitimate business and a legitimate source of income. And we built something really cool. So then he kind of like started coming around to it a little more, but very much like farming is not traditional. You won't be able to pay your bills. Like this is risky, kind of just like protective image. But to see it come full circle is really cool too. So now like in my present day that I'm kind of doing the same, staying in the same industry, not creating the same type of business whatsoever. He's been very supportive from day one. So it's nice to see everything come full circle.
Yes, he figured out that you can in fact do it and give you a challenge and you'll take care of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's really good. So I want to kind of jump back to you transitioning, going through a divorce and not knowing what to do. So what did you do right then, when you stepped away from everything? How did you handle it? How did you go about finding your ground again?
Yeah, this was probably the worst season of my life. I won't lie to you. So late 2021, I made the decision to get divorced. I knew, like, I was so confident in that decision. That was what I decided, that I knew it was best for me as an individual. But what I didn't realize at that point in time is how much I was going to grieve the loss of the farm. A lot of people don't talk about divorce and this season, and it's taken me a very long time to be willing to talk about it as well, because there's so much emotion that comes with that. So in that season, I knew, luckily, everything, with my divorce was pretty calm in the big picture. So together, my ex and I decided that like there was no reason to let the business suffer because of this decision. I trained some people pretty much to take my role and transitioned out over a couple-month period so that I was ready to fully step away early 22. And then at that point, it was like, okay, I knew I needed to get a job, but I didn't really know what that looked like. I had no clue how to sit down and write a resume and be like, hi, I just ran my own business for the last couple years and now I need a job. And part of that was because, everyone asked with like, well, why? So in the very beginning, I wasn't ready to tell people that it was because I got divorced and I chose to leave and all that stuff. But that was the truth and I couldn't avoid it. Like there was so much of me that wanted to like hide from that past. But ultimately, like, it's taken me a very long time to realize that, like, that's still a part of me. And I learned so much. And it was still a good season that just because now it's in the past, it doesn't get any less credit So as I move forward, I applied for jobs, and I think over the last like 3 years, not the last 3 years, like the 3 years in between getting divorced and on, I held like 6 or 7 jobs. And each one I was like, this isn't it. The first couple, the very first thing I applied for, going back to the stability mindset, was with my state Department of Agriculture. And it was, quickly out of COVID. So a lot of people were working from home, but I had a cubicle and I made a name tag. And after the 3rd day, I knew I wanted to quit. And my family was like, you can't, like, you need a job. And I was like, yeah, I know, but like, this isn't it. So, it was very difficult to know that like, I just wanted to be on the farm, but now I had to go like do big girl things and get a real job. So luckily, I ended up doing some like ag marketing, managing social media, just a bunch of like odds and ends things still in the ag space to kind of figure out what I wanted to do on top of like moving and figuring out where I was going to live and buying a house and just, it's a whole life restart. It's not just a new job. It was, every single thing changed. So it did take a couple of years to like refigure that out. But it wasn't really until I like bought a house, settled down, put some roots down again, joined some ag communities, like I'm on my local ag business council, and just started connecting with other farmers in the area, that I really felt like I was like settling back in and like this was a long-term thing. So yeah, a very non-traditional process, but if anyone's been through the similar thing, a lot you can relate with, I'm sure.
Yeah, 100%. And, a lot of the things that you brought up go back to one of my first episodes with Katie Dotterer, and how she even said in her episode where we really talked about it, a lot of, yes, it's that loss of a relationship that you're kind of like trying to find where you are, but that loss of, she also divorced and went away from the farm that she knew for so many years and helped build up and do all these things. And like that loss is real. And, the animals that you're used to seeing every day and the things, just your routines. So I definitely can see where that would be a huge void in your life where you're like, well, now what do I do? All of these things that were constant are now not there. So, but you made it through.
Yeah, exactly. And like, if anyone's listening and you're in that moment, like, give yourself the time to like slow down and be okay that life looks different and just all of those things. There was such a big part of me that felt like I had to figure it out, and I had to figure it out right now, just because I was in that season of like discomfort, and there was a lot of emotion and pain and just like the sadness. But if I didn't have that season, I wouldn't appreciate everything that I have right now. So it's pretty crazy. Like looking back over the last couple years, like I thought I was a pretty good business owner and like a halfway decent person back then, but like the leaps and bounds that I've grown just from working from other people and prioritizing myself and just refinding all the parts and pieces about yourself is like tenfold compared to then. So it hurts in the moment, it sucks in the moment, but 100% when you come out on the other side, it feels 10 times better.
Definitely. And so you also started doing some more sharing online, which is where I ended up meeting you, correct?
Yeah.
So if you want to talk a little bit about that, that side thing in your life.
Exactly. Yeah. So I started sharing online. I launched an Instagram when I was like still renting, probably like a year after I got divorced, called Farm Marketing Mentor. And that was my way. Like, I've always been really good at social media and marketing and things like that. It's something that I really give a lot of credit to for my previous business and the way that it grew. And I was like, all right, I'm decently good at this. Created an Instagram to start sharing and teaching other farmers. And that has slowly pivoted into more educating on how to grow pumpkins and things like that. So like, sharing in the online space sharing in the online space initially, there we go, was kind of like that connection to agriculture for me when I was in a season where I didn't have farming and I didn't have agriculture. I was push mowing my lawn at a rental home and I hated it. Like, hated push mowing because it always took me back to like, I used to mow my lawn with a batwing mower and now here I am like struggling with a push mower. And it was just like those little seasons. But the online space really helped me fill that void when I wasn't directly connected to agriculture. So now that I'm more in a full-time farming role again, I pour more time into my farm social media because that's just where my biggest passion is. But
you have such good subjects to share. I mean,
they make it easy for me. Yeah.
And that's how we met. Shout out to Elevate Ag and Natalie and Tara, who have both been on the podcast. So
Okay.
I know it's funny. And it's just funny how you meet people through these different spaces and you just kind of are like, yep, and we're friends now. And this is where we're going. So
exactly. I am so grateful for like the online space because all the different farmers that you're connected with and you meet and just operations that you can see, like it really is wild. I love having that at my fingertips.
Yes. And someday when I drive through Maryland, I am going to stop and I'm going to pet me some Highlands. We're going to get a good, positive Highlander experience.
We got the hookup.
I love it. Oh my gosh. So any other exciting plans in your future for the farm? What's next for you guys?
Yeah. So 2025 is kind of like, I'm taking it as like a trial and error year because our goal, so pretty much with the Highland experiences and events, we do private reservations, that's by appointment. And we also have a goal of doing one monthly event. So for March, we're doing like a Owning Highlands 101 workshop, which is really cool. That's coming up this weekend. April, we're doing a DIY like wood planter workshop, so a little more crafty. And of course, all of that is paired with like hands-on time with the cows because that's the best part. So then looking forward to May, we'll be doing some stuff with Mother's Day. I have a small online store to like go with the events. We do a lot of like pre-orders for items, things like that. So looking at the rest of the year, I'm moving. So Jacob and his parents own the farm together and they're transitioning here in the spring. So then they're moving. So then we'll move to the farm. So that's a big thing right now, just prepping for all the moving stuff. And then, of course, just general farm stuff. We make hay, so we'll be busy with that in season. We also grow pumpkins, so that really ties up our fall. And then before you know it, we'll be into Christmas with our Christmas events. And maybe in January, we'll start to slow down.
It's like someday I'll slow down. And then one thing ends and you're like, no, but we need to do this now.
For real.
Completely get that.
Yeah.
Because that's how our catering we cater on the side of our dairy farm. And we're always like, oh, shoot, November, like the food truck goes away. We start to slow down. Well, the joke's on us because it's gotten busier and busier and busier through those quote unquote rest months as we've gone. And I'm just, now I'm looking at the spring schedule and going, oh my gosh, are we there already? Like, I don't
For real.
I'm not there yet. Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm appreciative of the warmer weather and being able to feel my fingers when we're outside. But at the same time, like the anxiety that's internally of like the spring to-do list, it's there. It's there.
Yes. Oh, and I guess we completely skipped over your chapter of life and how you ended up with your boyfriend and getting into this whole thing.
Exactly. Yes. No. So one of the jobs that I took kind of in my in-between season was about an hour and a half from where I grew up. So the halfway mark was a place called Middletown, and literally ironic, very funny, middle. But I ended up renting in Middletown because it was like that halfway point. I could commute to work, but could also like be back to my family halfway close. So kind of putting down roots there. I ended up meeting Jacob just in the farming community, and we've just been farming alongside of each other. Originally me starting at their farm was very just like, I'll come and help. I'll run, a hay wagon, whatever. It took a while for me to be like, yes, I want to be involved in this operation. Just because of that, past experience, you just got out of an operation. So Jacob is fantastic. And I always tell myself that like any reservations that I have is from me still healing from the past, not anything like questionable about the future. So we're really excited for, me to be full-time on the farm now. Really like going all in on that is like a life milestone, but also like a huge step in the right direction for him and I, because both of us last year trying to farm full-time farm and both work full-time, it's demanding. So luckily this year with me being on the farm full-time, that's what it is. I think it will take a lot of that pressure off of what that looks like this year of farming together. So we'll see how that looks, but throw a move in there, throw in, normal life stuff, and
you can handle anything now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we're excited for the year ahead.
I love it. At this point, I love to transition into just some fun rapid fire questions because
ready.
That's how you really get to know somebody. I mean, come on. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Tea? Oh
I actually have never drank a full cup of coffee, as crazy as that sounds.
my gosh. Maybe I'm rethinking our friendship right now. I'm just kidding. I do love a good cup of tea also, but I am a coffee. Coffee runs in my veins. I've said that on the podcast many a times. It runs in my veins. Here we go.
Yeah.
You got to choose for dinner, pizza or burger.
Well, pizza.
Pizza.
Easy to cook. I'm not hate cooking. Hate cooking.
Hate cooking. All right. Your favorite book or what you're currently reading.
What I'm currently reading is The Compound Effect. I couldn't tell you who it's about or who it's by, but it's just about like slowly changing your everyday simple habits to just be a better person. So I like a lot of like the business type books if I sit down and take the time to read.
I love it. I'm a get lost in my books kind of person. I like to not read too many, like, I don't know how you refer to them as, but I like a good like novel not set in this time period. Like I like to just go out of body and yes.
For sure.
I'm an 1800s British Duchess. So, you know.
That makes sense.
That's how we roll. No.
Yeah.
What is your favorite thing to do when you're away from the farm?
Away from the farm is my workout routine. I love either lifting weights or running or whatever that combination looks like. So yeah, that's my non-farm activity.
She goes to the gym too. I like it. Are you still going to the same place?
No, I'm not. I'm just doing more like at-home workouts at the moment.
My heart.
I know.
I'm very sad about this.
Yeah. I know. I still miss it. I'm on the fence. So we'll see how long
you better come back. Even though we don't go to the same quote unquote location. I mean, we're burn sisters. You got to go back.
Yeah, I know. I loved it. Yeah. I've been thinking about it. So we'll see how it goes.
Your least favorite farm chore?
Running equipment. It does not click with me. It makes me so anxious. So like, anything that includes that, I'm like, can anyone else do it? Thank you.
Your favorite childhood memory?
Ooh, my parents bought me a horse when I was in middle school. So the day that they had him at the farm and I showed up and he was just like in the stall, that like takes the cake for sure.
And what was his name?
Lucky. He was a chestnut.
Ooh, I have a Lucky in my barn right now and he's a useless Lucky. But he's a half draft, half Welsh pony.
Cute.
But he's like big. He's like the size of my barrel horse. Like he's
interesting. Okay.
Pretty large.
Chunky, like real solid.
Oh, drafty. Yeah, very drafty. Yeah. But he's just, I tell him he's lucky to be here.
No.
Because he's useless.
Yeah, that's funny.
So here we are. It's fine. But yes, that's my Lucky.
Yeah.
Your favorite holiday tradition?
Christmas, my mom likes to make these chocolate cookies that are rolled in powdered sugar. She's convinced me that we can only make them when it's cold outside because the dough sticks to your hands. But I think this is her way of like only making them at Christmas time and not getting sucked into it the rest of the year.
Makes them special, something to look forward to.
Exactly.
That. If you could live anywhere, where would you live?
Honestly, I am super happy right where I'm at. And that sounds crazy, but I've done so much moving the last couple of years that I just love the area and really just appreciate home. So.
Oh, I love it. Right where I am.
I know. It sounds so cheesy, but it's true. I'm not really a big traveler or away from home type person.
That's okay. When you've got cows as cute as yours. I mean,
exactly.
Tanya would also, choose to say, well, Mom, you should stay here because I'm the cutest. But
yes,
if you don't know who Tanya is, she is my queen bee in the barn. For those,
we've all got one of those.
Yes. And she does things at her own accordance. You are not to push her. You are not to tell her what to do. You are to ask nicely.
Yep.
If you try to tell her what to do, the Jersey comes out in her and you just better watch.
Game over.
Sweet or savory?
Sweet.
I'm a sweet person too. Yes, that's my biggest downfall in my life.
Me too. Yep.
Yeah. Especially when we're catering or my mom is baking. I'm a dough thief.
Yes. Good stuff.
That's my downfall. And let me see. Introvert or extrovert?
More introvert. Yeah. The Highland events and experiences and all the stuff, that's my extroverted side. And then I'm okay, peace and quiet at the farm. We're back to just me and the cows. So a little bit of both, but I'd lean more to the introvert side.
You're the introverted extrovert.
Perfect. Nailed it.
I could people, but then when I'm done, I'm very happy to not people. Much energy out. I am fairly extroverted, but I've gotten more introverted as I've gotten older.
Sure.
And I come home, like I'll go to these meetings where you have to be like on all the time. And I come home and I am whooped, like so tired that my husband's like, well, you didn't do anything. You just sat there. And I was like, no, I had people and like pay attention and not do my own thing.
Yeah.
It's a lot out of you.
It does.
So I love to ask a question that was left from a previous guest. So more of a deep thought question. And your question is, which I absolutely love this question. When you're having a tough day, what is something that you do to change your mood and mentality to be more positive?
Yeah, for sure. On the tough days, I think for me is just the quiet time in the barn and going and just hanging out with the cows and not being pressured to do all of the chores and all the little things and all the things on the to-do list. So it's literally just grabbing a brush and going and shedding out the cows and just taking that time to be there and enjoy the farm, because I think we can get so caught up in the work side of it and forget about just the enjoyment side of it. So that's always like my reset button, is just that cow time in the quiet with the brush, and that's about it.
You forget about your to-do lists and things like that and just woosah.
Yes, 100%.
Everyone needs some time to just woosah. That's my
agreed.
And sometimes you just have to hit that reset button, and it's wonderful. So what is a quote that inspires you to, be the best you can be, do the best you can do? What's your go-to?
My go-to quote, and this one's kind of like stuck with me for a couple years, and it is, if you expect a harvest, you have to plant a seed. And just because it ties back to farming, but really is just that reminder of like, if you really want to do something and you want to see something come to light, you actually have to do it. And that's so simple, but like for me in the agritourism stuff, it's something I sat on for so long that now that it's real and a thing and is happening and is working, I'm like, man, why did I wait so long? So yeah, that's where we're at.
I love it. And that is such a fitting quote for you. And, it goes back to that, like, you're never going to get to your final destination if you don't take that first step. And a lot of people are scared to take that first step. So having the courage to, in your quote, plant that seed is so important, because you don't get the finished product, or you don't get to try to get that final goal unless you actually put the time and the effort in to do it. So I love it. And that ties so perfectly into your story and, your journey. So I love that.
I appreciate it.
Victoria, where can people follow you and obviously watch your stories and see the cutest Highland cattle ever?
Exactly. Get your Highland cow fix. We are on Facebook and Instagram. Instagram is at @blackrock_farm. So that's the best place to be.
So, and then what's your other Instagram?
Right now, my other Instagram is Pumpkins for Profit. And that's sharing about like how to grow pumpkins, how to make money with them, all of that fun stuff.
And I will be sure to link those in the show notes for you guys to be able to find them nice and easy. Victoria is a great follow. Highly recommend you go check her out. Any parting words, Victoria?
Just thank you for having me on. I really appreciate the voice you're giving to women in ag, and I'm excited to follow along with you for the future.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us today. If you loved this episode, please share with a friend, tag friends, tag us, do all the things. That's how podcasts like this grow. And thank you so much. We will talk to you next week. Hey, Dairy Hour listeners, if you're enjoying this show, leaving a review is the best way to help us grow and reach more people. Plus, I've got a little thank you for you. Snap a screenshot of your review, message it to me at DairyGalVal, and I will be sure to send some fun Dairy Hour stickers your way. Thanks for supporting the podcast, and I cannot wait to mail you some swag.